Welcome back to the al-Monitor Brief. I'm Adam Lucente. Syrian President Ahmed al-Sharaa visited the United Kingdom on Tuesday, meeting Prime Minister Keir Starmer as well as King Charles III. He discussed counterterrorism and migration-related cooperation with the British Premier, and at a Chatham House event, declared that Syria would remain neutral in the U.S. and Israeli war with Iran. During a visit to Germany on Monday, Sharaa met with German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, who called for 80% of Syrian refugees in Germany to return in the next 3 years. He also visited the offices of Siemens Energy, and last week, a Syrian Investment Authority official went to London for meetings. In this episode, fellow news writer Rosaleen Carroll and I will provide a recap of Sharaa's trip, focusing on the difficulties Germany and Syria may face in returning the refugees, the latest on Syria's posture towards Iran, and more. Hope you enjoy. Rosaleen, welcome back to the al-Monitor Brief.
Hey Adam, thanks for having me.
Yeah, you wrote some interesting analyses for us this week on Sharaa's trip. I want to start by this German goal of 80% of Syrian refugees currently in the country returning back to Syria. Why might that be difficult to achieve?
Yeah, so Merz outlined this goal during Shara's visit to Berlin of returning 80% of Syrian refugees over 3 years, and that's about 800,000 people. So there are a number of factors at play here that could make that pretty lofty goal hard to achieve. I think first off are the legal protections inside Germany and Europe more broadly, which are principles of non-refoulement. So that stops states from returning individuals to a country where the individual could face persecution or harm, and so on. And then there's the more simple fact that many Syrians in Germany have built whole lives there and may not want to leave. The number of Syrians in Germany who have full asylum status is actually not that great, but at least 300,000 Syrians of the 1 million in Germany have subsidiary protection, which is a status granted to people who do not qualify as refugees but could face harm in their home country. So in Germany, refugee offers stronger and longer term protection, but subsidiary protection is more temporary. And then the other unavoidable factor is the conditions inside Syria. Syria is still recovering and it's certainly stabilizing, but it's a far throw away from somewhere like Germany. It's hard to overstate the scale of destruction in Syria. The country's effectively seen more than a decade of war and years of intense sanctions. There's millions of people displaced within Syria that still need to be returned to their communities, and that's a big priority for the government this year. So there's a lot of work to be done, obviously. Syria is looking for hundreds of billions in reconstruction funding, whether that be loans or grants. And that's something that it hopes countries like Germany will help with. So there's an aspect of exchange here, a sort of informal quid pro quo, maybe. Something like, okay, we'll try to reabsorb some Syrians from abroad, but we'll also need some financial and reconstruction help as we do that. And then lastly, you have the security situation, which seems to be stabilizing, but it's hard to guarantee that sort of stability long term with this nascent government. So you've seen sectarian clashes with Druze, with Kurds, with Alawites. You've seen minorities being killed by government forces. So this treatment remains a concern for minorities who previously fled the country. I will note, however, that neither the Syrian government nor European diplomats are blind to this. On Tuesday, while he was in London, Sharaa pretty explicitly acknowledged that 800,000 people returning over the next 3 years is probably an exaggeration.
Yeah, and just a quick follow-up on that. Or what is the indication with regards to Syria's priority on this? Is this something Sharaa wants to do? Does he share Merz's goal of returning these people, or are Syrian authorities more cautious?
So I think there is incentive for Syria to get people back to the country, especially people who can bring money and investment with them. But ultimately, right now, this is probably not priority number one for Sharaa and his government. I think the internally displaced persons, which numbers in the millions in Syria, is really the top priority in terms of like the movement of people. I'm sure that they're under some pressure to focus on this, but it's not really feasible to put it ahead of returning the people within Syria who are already displaced.
Right, that makes sense. This next question is related to that stability point. You had Shara obviously make this historic visit to Germany, met with Merz, and then met, Prime Minister Starmer and the King in the UK. I mean, what do you think these visits say about how Europe views Shara more than a year into his reign or tenure?
Yeah, so I think what we're seeing is Europe is taking a bet on Shara, and I think they're increasingly confident in that bet. I won't presume to speak for European governments, but Shara and his transitional government, they are certainly have risen in stature internationally. I mean, the visits to London and Berlin, which are two of Europe's most influential capitals, really highlight that. I mean, it's been pretty astonishing to see someone like Shara, who not so long ago ran an Islamist rebel militant group, to see him in places like Buckingham Palace meeting with Britain's monarch. But as remarkable as it is, and despite objections from some, I think it is becoming more normal. Shara is integrating as a leader, and Syria is integrating as a country, and I think Europe is seeing that and endorsing it effectively.
Yeah, I saw a post on X recently that read Shara has figured out the West in a way that many other leaders in the region haven't. He has a clear knack for engaging with the region. And obviously, Syria is relatively stable right now, despite the sectarian issues that you mentioned, and signs that I'll get to later that Iran may be looking to kind of poke at the country. Either way, Europe, for its own reasons, definitely wants a stable Syria, largely due to the refugee issue that we discussed. Finally, Rosaleen, what did we learn from Syria's position on the Iran war during this trip? What's the latest on that?
Yeah, so I mean, for the most part, Syria has managed to stay out of this war. We've seen incidents like Iranian missiles intercepted by Israel over Syria. I think there was a drone attack from Iraq. But again, Syria has refrained from getting involved. During his UK visit, Shah made it abundantly clear that Syria intends to remain neutral unless directly attacked. And he also urged negotiations. But at the same time, he's not, I wouldn't say that he's taking a side, but he's certainly distancing himself from Iran's regional posture. In the UK, he criticized Iran's pursuit of ballistic missiles and its nuclear program. This is obviously a shift from the Assad era, when Syria could reliably be expected to fall in line with Iran and generally aligned with Iran in its regional policy. So I think he's signaling that it's a new era for Syria, and I think Syria is also very conscious of the eyes on it at the moment from Europe, from the US, from others in the region. And then another signal is from last weekend when the Syrian military said it discovered two smuggling tunnels near the Lebanon border, which you covered, Adam, reportedly used by Lebanese militias. I don't think Syria specified, but I think it's likely Hezbollah. Um, and I think that is also a signal from Damascus, basically saying that it doesn't want to get dragged into cross-border clashes. It doesn't want um, anything to do with Hezbollah's involvement in the war. And Shar himself stressed that Syria cannot actually handle being in another war right now, which seems credible given the country's current state.
Yeah, and that's all the more reason I think Europe has shown him this warm reception. There are reservations about the Trump administration's posture towards Iran, notwithstanding. Rosaline, thanks a lot for your time, and we look forward to more of your writing on these topics.
Thanks very much, Adam.
I'll offer a few concluding thoughts. In terms of the Iran war, Syria hasn't been significantly impacted. Some projectiles have fallen, but that's basically it in terms of physical damage. I will note that we are seeing increasing threats against Syria by Iran-linked actors. Tehran's semi-official Fars news agency posted a claim this week that U.S., British, and Israeli personnel are staying at hotels in Damascus in an apparent threat. And in addition to the drone attack that Rosaleen mentioned, Syria said missiles were fired from Iraq towards one of its bases late last month. Sabarin News, which is affiliated with Iraq's Iran-backed militias, reported that that strike targeted an American base. And finally, it's worth taking a quick look at how the domestic situation in Germany could affect the return of the Syrian refugees. Opposition to taking in more refugees is high in Germany, and a poll last month by the local organization Forsa showed that 73% of Germans are wary of taking in more refugees from Iran in response to the current war. Now, Merz, seeking not to be outflanked to the right by the AfD party, has made returning the Syrian refugees a stated priority in recent months. But his cabinet is actually a little bit divided on this issue. His foreign minister, Johann Vadaful, cast doubt on the ability of Syrians to return during his November trip to Damascus, citing the war-related damage. The foreign minister's view has left him somewhat isolated within the party, according to the public broadcaster Deutsche Welle. That concludes our episode. Thanks for listening to the Al-Monitor Brief. Be sure to follow Al-Monitor for more on the stories impacting the Middle East. And until next time, I'm Adam Lucente.
Today's transformation of the Middle East is at the center of global geopolitics. Whether you're an analyst, diplomat, executive, or academic, you need the best reporting and analysis to understand what's really happening on the ground and what it means for the world. Al-Monitor is the award-winning independent leader in Middle East news. From Riyadh to Beirut, Abu Dhabi to Doha, and Baghdad to Tehran, our team of over 100 expert journalists report daily on the top stories driving the regional trends. Download our mobile app and subscribe to Al-Monitor to follow what leaders and decision-makers are reading every day. Go to almonitor.com, that's AL-MONITOR.com, and use promo code POD25, POD25 for a discount.